At the turn of the century, factories began to grow, becoming more dangerous by the minute. Every year, 35,000 workers were killed by industrial accidents. The number continued to grow per year. Some of the most noticed disasters that helped trigger factory safety were the coal mining explosions and the most well-known Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory made high-neck cotton blouses for working women. Its owners, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, subcontracted their employees, which were hard-working individuals. Subcontractors had the ability to pay their employees as much as they pleased, which was usually very low. Most of the factory's workers were newly arrived Italian and Jewish immigrant women. They had to work 6 days a week for several hours, getting paid very low wages. Their only break was a half an hour lunch. During the day, while the factory's employees were hard at work, the owners would lock the doors. They did this because they didn't want their employees to take any breaks except the ones they were given. In 1905, International Ladies Garment Workers Union was formed. Its job was to protest low pay, unsafe working conditions, and the 90-hour work week. Clara Limich was on the executive board. She helped organize small strikes and later became the leading union activist. On November 22, 1909, a meeting was held at Cooper Union's Grand Hall. 2,500 workers employed by Shirtwaists attended to listen to speeches by union leaders. For 2 hours they listened to encouraging pro-union talk, but this wasn't what they wanted to hear. They wanted someone to start a strikeout. When Samuel Goppers was finally finished talking, Claire Limich, who was still recovering from a nearly fatal beat-up by paid thugs, got up and said, "I want to say a few words." She was then helped to the stage by people in the crowd and said, "I have listened to all the speakers. I have no further patience for talk. As I am one of those who feels and suffers for the things pictured, I move that we go on a general strike." The crowd applauded her, shouting with joy. Claire Limich had started a strike. This strike would be known as the Uprising of 20,000. During the strike of 1909, unions sent demands to the owners of sweatshops. They wanted shorter work weeks, a 20% pay raise, and for factories to acknowledge the unions by joining them. Within the first 2 days, 70 of the sweatshops they had sent demands to joined. The top 10, including Triangle, wouldn't obey the union's wishes, and came up with a document of refusal, trying to stop the strike. Within a week, 100 other sweatshop owners had signed it, but this didn't mean the strike was going to end. To their dismay, it continued. The owners of Triangle began to struggle, as more and more of their workers joined the strike. So they made a proposal, which was turned down. After another 2 months, they proposed it again. The workers gave in, and the strike was officially over. On March 25, 1911, the employees of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory were just getting ready to leave when a fire broke out on the 8th floor. Filled with terror, they ran to the doors, trying to get out. Yet with no avail, they were locked. When the firemen arrived, they put up ladders to help them get out, but they were too short. With that, they began to jump to their deaths. Gulp. Ah! After an hour and a half of fighting the fire, it finally went out, leaving 146 of the factory's 500 workers dead. Most had died from blunt impact, burns, lack of oxygen, or a combo of all three. bodies were later brought to the morgue, but the building was too small to hold all of the victims. They began to line them up outside of the building. Some of the bodies were in such bad shape, the only way they were identified was by a ring, scrap of cloth, or a stitch in a stocking. The once busy working area was now laying in a mess of burnt items and rubble. The fire escape had melted and was now laying clumsily on the sides of the building. In 1912, the New York State Legislature passed 8 bills. These policies covered a large range of working conditions in factories. Some of the things it did was make factories sanitized and limit working hours for women and children. In 1913, the Factory Investigating Committee recommended 28 new laws involving working conditions. Out of them, 25 passed, providing punishments for violations of the labor laws, the industrial code, and on the very conditions that led to the enormous loss of life at Triangle. Before the fire took place, people would work in terrible conditions for 6 days a week, getting paid very low wages. The fire made people realize that what was going on in factories was wrong, and as a result, laws were put in place to prevent things like this from happening. I only wish it didn't take 146 women to lose their lives for them to realize this.